So Russell, what is the one thing that truly maximises the value of someone's home when they go to sell their property?
I think, as I say to everyone, I think first impressions are so important. I think it comes from first impressions of getting the price right, getting your main photo right, the description right, and more importantly, when your buyers come around to view, what is the first thing they're going to see when they get out their car and see your property? I did some, I don't mind saying this, I did some touting the other day, and I went around hand delivering letters to people who've been on the market for some months, been struggling. And I've been putting letters through their doors, and I've been looking at their outside of their properties. They've got blocked gutters, trees just covering their windows, overgrown, front doors all looking ramshackled and not painted. And you're thinking, why isn't the agent telling these people, spend a little bit of time, just a little bit of money on getting these things right? And it makes such a big difference.
Yeah, I agree with that. But why do you think it makes such a big difference?
Yeah. Because I tell you, it's the human mind, where if you go around and see a property which looks absolutely, top spec, everything has been done, but if someone sees something like a cracked pane of glass or block guttering, things growing in it, they're going to think, oh, okay, well, that's not been looked after. And then their mindset, when they're going looking around your property, they're going to start looking for other things to unpick. And it's just the way the mind works. So already, before they've even stepped foot through your property, they're looking for other things which they don't think are going to be right.
Yeah, exactly. And then are you saying then the bank of mum and dad may also have the same issue should that buyer want to put an offer in? Are you saying that so you could get competition of people, buyers that are going, do you know what, that house seems to be okay priced, for example, but actually there were competition, there were other people looking at it, but if they're not interested, I'm not interested.
I think when you say about the bank of mum and dad, I think that generally they're a more trained eye, and it's just, again, it's leaving no stone unturned. So it's just just getting everything looking as best it can with the property. And if you're leaving something glaringly obvious, the buyers, and especially the more experienced mum and dad, they're going to be looking for other things to see which aren't right, and they're going to be thinking, well, that needs money spending on it, that needs time spending on it. And you've just got to sort of nullify all the things which people can look for, and make sure that any damp patches, things like that, they're all taken care of before you've got people coming to look at your home.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Now, for people listening right now, one thing I will stick out there immediately is that although Russell and I actually worked in different offices, you could effectively call us colleagues because we were sharing property between Ladbroke Grove and Shepherd's Bush. Now, Russell ended up working in the same office as I was when I had actually left. I went to live abroad, right? But one of the things, I'm probably going to embarrass you now by saying this, Russell, but I think it's vitally important, is that was around 2008, 2009. So if anybody can remember listening right now, how difficult that period was for getting houses sold, winning instructions, because mortgage companies had pulled all of their products off the shelf and it was going proper Pete Tong.
Overnight, wasn't it? It was just bonkers.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when I went back to that office, I think you had gone on to pastures new. But having a conversation, and this is important for people to understand this about Russell, is that one of the old directors, James Kerman, said to me when we were talking about Russell and attributes, he said, despite that market, 2008, where nothing was happening, Russell Chilvers was the man, the only man you really met that was able to put deals together in a horrific market. So when you're talking from a place of first impressions count, and that is the first thing you're looking for before you've even stepped inside the property. If you're an agent right now, if you're wondering what good looks like, that is just a small but very powerful part that Russell's just mentioned there. But Russell, with the ramifications of buyers being put off, how does that affect a seller, other than just not being able to sell their place?
Yeah, I mean, it affects them. It affects them financially. It affects them time-wise as well, because you've got to remember it varies in different markets. So if you were asking me this question sort of 60 months ago, before our lovely Liz Truss got involved and made things a little bit different for everyone, it's the last few years. It's been pretty easy to sell a property. An agent has to go there, open the door, and you're going to be getting 5-6 offers. In markets like this, where there's nowhere near as many ready and willing buyers, but there's so much more property on the market, you've got to make sure that your property stands out head and shoulders above the competition. Again, doing this, it's just making sure that you're pitching your price right, it's getting your photos right, it's getting the descriptions right. All these things make, the little things make such a big difference. If you've got 10 similar properties on, why are people going to buy your house rather than the other 9 on the market? And when you're on the valuation, a good agent will be explaining this to the buyer. Like you said in your last podcast, as your man did, a good agent will explain on the valuation to buyers, this is what's on the market at the moment. This is our competition. This is what we need to do to get us head and shoulders above the rest and going to get you sold. And if sellers aren't interested and they go, well, the other agent says £75,000 more. Well, good luck. I'll see you in a few months. I'm sorry. That is brutal, but that is the way it is.
Yeah, but why would you talk yourself though? If you know how easy it is, right? Because obviously you're very skilled at what you do, and if you know how easy it is to win instructions, because if you say the right thing, you're getting the property. Why do you talk yourself out of an instruction? Why'd you do that?
The reason is, especially for me, I run a personal agency, so I run a one-man band, but you work with me solely from initial instruction to completion. I don't have my time to waste. And I think, and I mean this, I'm here to help people and give accurate, present facts. When I go around, I spend an hour researching a property before I go round, and I explain the what's sold, what's selling, what's not. And if people don't want to work with me and they're just torn because they've either been offered a lower fee or, another £100,000 on the asking price, first of all, where are they getting that £100,000 from? Because anyone can just go around and say that, like a lot of agents unfortunately do. And then the agents will tie these people into long contracts and finally grind them down. They'll come down to the price I initially said. And I just don't have time to show people around properties which are too much money. The high chances that, first of all, you're not going to get many viewings or people through the door. And when they do get offers, they're probably not going to accept them because they've been promised the world, and it's just not true.
Yeah, and it's effectively make believe. So effectively, what you're saying is if you're a doctor or a surgeon, if you're a surgeon and somebody has to have their right leg amputated, and the patient is saying, yeah, but I want you to amputate my left leg.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
The surgeon will just say, not a chance.
Yeah, and it's not, I'm pretty brutal, but obviously in a diplomatic way and things. But my last piece of advice, if the vendor said, well, look, we're going to go with the other agent because they said a much higher price, and to all your listeners out there, what I would say is well, look, give them a 6-week contract or something like that. If this agent is worth their salt and they're going to do what they said they do, fine. All right, you've got 6 weeks. And if you haven't done it in 6 weeks, I'll go to the agent who, we liked more than them, but they didn't say as much. And then you've got a chance. But tying yourself in with these big 3-4 months contracts, you can't get out of. And then the agent's finally going, well, actually, I think you need to bring it down £50,000 or £75,000. Well, the agent has not been factual with what they said on the valuation.
But why do you care so much about what a seller achieves?
Because it's my job. I think, it's unfortunately with this profession is that you don't have to be a rocket scientist to be an estate agent, and you don't really have to pass any exams, which I think is a bit of a flaw in the system, especially at the moment, because the quality is not great. but I want to do a good job for people and help them. And obviously, when you hear an estate agent say that, people are like, yeah, all right, mate. But it's true. You know, everyone is different and everyone's unique. I like getting involved in my community. And I wonder when I walk into my local pub and they go, oh, look, that's Russell. He sold our house. What a nice guy and what a good job he did. And I really value that in my life, you know.
Well, I tell you one thing, right? This may shock you. Actually, I'm going to keep that to myself. But what I will say, those who want to ask me privately what I was just about to say, feel free to ask, but I'm not going to say it on this podcast right now. But what I would say is this. Where you were working in Shepherd's Bush with Winkworth, where we were working in Ladbroke Grove, right? We were scrapping with all the other agents that were bullshitting.
Yeah.
Right? And so we were seen very much as middle of the road in terms of we're not flash, but we're not low market.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we had to get right, because ultimately we're independent businesses working under the umbrella of Winkworth, was there was no big corporate entity in another office was able to bail us out.
Correct. Absolutely.
So the standards of the agent, and not just the actual lister or the sales manager going to win the instructions, but the negotiators had to be a cut above the rest as well. Yes. And I think what you're saying is, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is that sellers have to be so careful, because with the brand and the model that you're working with right now and the level of experience and detail and understanding and knowledge expertise that you have, it's Russell Chilvers that is going from cradle to grave, from instruction to completion. It's not, which is what we were competing with other agencies that may have had 8 offices or 100 offices or whatever. Our negotiators had to be super skilled, whereas a lot of agents, the negotiators, if you're talking about qualifications or game understanding, don't have that level of understanding. They may, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong, by the way, being 20 years old and cutting your teeth in the game.
Of course there's not.
But equally, when you're talking about the big bloody asset that you have, that you are trying to sell and actually have it represented, that 20-year-old will not have the life experience. And if their agency is not giving them the tools other than saying, there's a phone, make your phone calls, get through your applicant box and try and create stuff, what does that negotiator do?
Well, do you know what, John? I think you're absolutely right. And I'll tell you, here is a really good top tip, which I've been trying to say to people on the market, is have they actually phoned an agent pretending to be a buyer, asking to view a property on a Saturday, you know, asking 3 questions. How long has it been on the market? Has there been any offers? Why are the vendors selling? Why hasn't it sold yet? And I've been on the other end. So recently I was looking for a flat for myself. And there's one, I found one of the biggest agents up in Hove. And I said, oh, hi there. Look, I'm a cash buyer. I've just seen this little flat I want to buy. And this flat was on the next road to where they are. And this was Saturday morning. I said, look, can anyone just test me around today? No. Oh, okay. Well, when can they show me? Oh, Wednesday? I was like, do you know what? Forget it. I'll call you back. And then I deliberately walked past that office. And there they all are on their phones, just heads down the desk, doing nothing. And you're thinking, these people are charging thousands of pounds to clients, you know, selling up, and they're not interested. So I think, and I did a video on this the other day. If anyone wants some property tips, look at my Instagram, Russell Chilvers _property. But I did one called Try Before You Buy. So if you're thinking of instructing an agent to sell your home, phone them up, ask them those questions. Can they view it on a Saturday? How interested do they seem on the phone? And if they're good, then you know that agent is probably worth exploring. And if they're not interested, then I'd probably just steer well clear.
Yeah, and that's it. And a lot of negotiators, I fell into the industry because I watched a show, a fly on the wall documentary about estate agency, and I was like, do you know what? This guy that they were following around in a little, although he wasn't working for Foxtons, but he was in a little mini.
Was it Seth Matt's Flats?
Mate, it was no, not that one. Although I've been recently told about that, I must watch it. Was it called Steph Sells Flats?
Seth Let's Flats, yeah, I think
Seth
it is.
Let's Flats, yeah. Right, so I was told about that by the KW guys. I recently did a workshop with, and that was like, right, I must remember to watch that. But this fly on the wall documentary, this guy was saying, this negotiator was saying that basically he did basic training in the British Army, and he didn't pass. But during training, he was carrying 180 pounds on his back during training, and I was like, well, I went on parachute regiment selection, which is the only selection process in the British Army you can go on to get into the British Army, right? So it's a pass or fail event. 96 of us started, 17 of us ended up making it to the very end. So the attrition rate is horrific, right? And I'm watching this show and I'm like, not a chance in God's earth can this fella do what I have done. Yeah. Now, when we crossed the border into Iraq, I was carrying 183 pounds on my back. I weigh 145. I couldn't stand up. Yeah? So just to put a bit of context around it. So and I'm an elite level soldier. Yeah. But I was like, I can definitely do his job. Absolutely can do his job. But Russell, when I first became an estate agent, I was the world's worst. Yeah. I was so shit. It was unreal. I got more complaints than offers. And Alex, my old manager, was like, what are you doing, John? Why are these people complaining? You're showing them the wrong property. And I was like, but they asked to go and see it. How could I be, right? And I thought, a heart of gold trying to do the right thing. But to your point of negotiators in there, well, I can earn some money, can't I? I can earn some money. And that's how and that's how they're viewing it. They're not viewing it like, oh my God, I'm now representing someone's house.
Yes. Probably the biggest asset they'll ever own, often millions of pounds, and it's just bonkers. I mean, I remember I worked for one office and the junior girl there, and she was great, but she wasn't allowed to go and view property, I think, over 750,000 until she got more understanding on. And you know what? I think that was actually quite good. Because you've got to, you build up and you learn how to deal with conversations and people and everything like that. It's really important. But then, I think all the big agents, they should put the correct procedures and training in place. It's not rocket science. I don't mean to sound, arrogant or anything like that, but it really isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. There are some agencies, I'm just going to name drop one, which is Andrews Online. And I got those guys to sell a flat on my behalf. They did everything that you would do. Everything you would do. I interviewed 8 agents, and literally 5 of them got cast away immediately. I was like, not a chance are they ever walking through my client's front door. That ain't happening. Then I whittled it down to 3 agents, and one of them I thought, I'll give the benefit of the doubt, let's take him through to another stage, but actually he just wasn't interested really, or didn't come across like he was interested. And then the other 2, one of them very passionate but mugged it. He said, John, mate, seriously, when I was asking him questions, putting him on the spot, I'll just tell the buyer what they need to hear in order to get the deal done.
Oh my God.
And I was like, you've completely fucked it, mate. You're gone. And then the last one, a guy called Ronald, Andrews Online, he would say and said everything that you would say in terms of knowledge, expertise in order to get the house sold, right? This flat needed £40,000 worth of work being done to it. The best house on the street sold for 264 grand. This flat also had a £28,000 lease extension, right? He ended up putting the property on the market for 225, knowing that it needed all that work being done to it. So well below the 264 that the other flat on the street had got. He ended up selling it for 248, and it still needed a £28,000 lease extension. 17 viewings, 5 offers, smashed it out of the park. Yeah. And that was the same as what you would do in the level of honesty, transparency, holding someone's hand, walking them down the path, because you just said in the very beginning of this that your first impressions count, right? So you're looking straight away and then you're molding and shaping the sale deliberately in order to maximize its value. Really, that flat should have sold for 200 grand. And he sold it for 248. Amazing. And this is why I come back to with what James Kerman, our old director, was saying about you. You put deals together. You understand the nuances and the things that can go wrong. Well, you're being humble now when you say you do your best, but that's coming.
I appreciate it. But I think, the reason one of my successes in my careers, and along with the team I work for or with, it's just being honest and just being brutally honest, leaving no stone unturned. So people know from the outset what they're working with. And that way you don't trip yourself up. It's, it really is as simple as that. If you don't know a question, go, look, I don't know, let me find out to you and I'll come straight back to you. That's all you've got to do.
Yeah, and that's as easy as this game is. But I think I'm going to ask you another question in a second. But the easiest thing to do is overvalue in order to win the instruction, because you're
Yes, yeah,
relying
yeah,
on cognitive biases that people have about, and then everybody's got the best house, right?
yeah,
And they're all on the best street with the best house, and it's like if they can let that go and then actually look at it critically, then they're going to be good to go. But why? Why do you think why do you think sellers make the mistakes that they make when it comes to what the other agent said?
it's quite easy. And I'll give you the best example I can, which is myself. So when I was selling my flat in Second Avenue in Hove, probably what was that, about 4 years ago now, and I had 3 agents round because I wasn't being an agent myself at the time. And I had 2 valuations at 460, and then I had 1 agent at 525. And I was thinking, yeah, do you know what? I've refurbed it. It is a really good spec. I think I'm going to go with the 525. And then, funny enough, we got absolutely nowhere. I'm thinking, oh my God, how long have I been doing this for? But yet you see the pound signs in your head or
Yeah,
your eyes. And then I sold it, ended up 460 because I switched agent, and that's what it's worth.
yeah,
But if I can do it, then unfortunately anyone can. But all I would say is, with a word of caution, just you can always try it, but look at the facts. And the main thing is just don't tie yourself into these long contracts. By all means, try it, but just remember the facts.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I think that is so important, and also so important that the contract length as well.
Yes.
I am so nervous for sellers when they're locking themselves in, and then suddenly they don't realize in the small print that they
Yeah.
may have a contract that is, say, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Personally, I think 6 weeks is too long, because of buyers thinking there's something can be wrong with it, and the issue therein lies. But if the agent knows what they're doing, 6 weeks is fine. But then you're relying on the agent knowing what they're doing. But
Yeah.
then in the small print, there could be a 28-day notice period, which
Yeah.
agents will hide
Very,
behind.
well, do you know what I say to my clients? I say, look, if you're not happy with my service or I haven't performed, I'll rip up your contract, because if I'm not delivering what I've promised, then why am I here?
Yeah,
And luckily I don't have a big corporate firm behind me saying, well, this is your contract, this is what you've got to use. Because I'm independent, if I'm not doing a good job, by all means try someone else, because I haven't delivered what I said I was going to deliver.
absolutely. And honestly, that is that there is the basis, the foundations of good estate agency, because
Yeah.
you know what you're doing, and that's why that gives you the confidence to be able to say what you've just said.
Yeah.
Right, Russell Chilvers, man. Thank you so much for taking the
Good to see
time
you
out to
again,
come on
John.
this podcast. Yeah, absolutely, mate, absolutely. And I'm so grateful for you doing this. Thanks
Thank
very
you for
much.
asking me. I appreciate it.